My name's Adele Onyango, and welcome to another episode of Legally Clueless. No, seriously, I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. Hey you, welcome to episode 255 of Legally Clueless. Thank you so much for working with the podcast. If you're an OG member, nothing but love for you as always. And I also want to shout out all members of our fam who were at the End Femicide protests on Saturday, the 27th. I met quite a few of you, and it was so great to not only know you're listening to the podcast, but to know that you are using your voice for something powerful, and I'll share more about that in a bit. But if you're a newbie, welcome to the family. Thank you for taking a chance on this podcast. Audio episodes like this go out every single Monday. Head over to our website, which is legallycluelessafrica.com. When you're there, you can check out 4 seasons of our video series and also start watching our tour series and officially join the family. So sign up, because that's also a pretty awesome space that's growing. We're actually interviewing writers right now to write for the newsletter. The family is growing and it's just so amazing. Anyway, newbies, do you know what you need to do? And links to all of those things I've said are in the show notes, as well as links to our Instagram and our TikTok. I am super excited about this episode because I find the story to be so powerful. And once again, it's a situation where this is someone that I know, but I didn't know they'd gone through certain key moments in their lives until the recording. Listen to this.
Unfortunately, there was an incident that happened to our family where my folks lost a legal dispute, and it had a large repercussion on us in terms financially and stability. I was shocked. Being auctioned is not something pleasant for anybody. I saw how vulnerable my mom was at that time. That is a point in time I started thinking about becoming a lawyer, because I was wondering why are people coming here to take our stuff, I remember that day these auctioneers came. My mom was at the gate and there was back and forth. And I came dragging a metal pipe to fight these guys. Like, who are you and what are you telling my mom?
That is Njoro. His story is coming up a little later in this episode, so stick around for that. However, make sure you check out the song of the week. So I'm back to writing poetry. I went through a bit of writer's block from December-ish. Even though I thought I'd spend most of December writing. But ever since I was in uni, one song I always loved writing to, so I've currently been listening to it, is India Ree's Always in My Head. She's talking about how music is always in her head, and it's just like one of those things that saves her. It's like an ode to music, and whenever I listen to it back then and even now, that's what I felt about poetry. And it's just so smooth and it's so yummy, and it's India Ree. My goodness, who doesn't like her? I've put a link to the song in the show notes. Before I tell you about the End Femicide protest and my experience there, I've got some really awesome news. We have our first event of 2024 coming up, and it's a wellness talk. We have decided as a team that we're going to have 11 wellness talks this year, and they're going to be virtual. So for those of you who can't make it to our group therapy sessions, we have wellness talks as an alternative. They're virtual. Some of them are going to be run by our resident therapist, Faith, and some of them we're going to have guest speakers on, like this first one. It's happening on the 10th of February, 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Tickets are 1,000 bob, which you can get on our website on Hustle Sasa or the link in the show notes. Now let me tell you about the guest speaker, because she's super awesome. Susan Wanjiku. She and her YouTube videos, a couple of episodes ago, I was talking to you about making my financial habits healthier, and one of the resources or YouTube channels that I would watch is hers. And I just found her videos to be so informative, to break down financial jargon so that it makes sense for me who just wants my money to work for me. And she'd also sometimes touch on money psychology. Why do you have the spending habits that you have? It's super awesome that we shot our shots. I've never met her in my life, just subscribed to her YouTube channel, but we shot our shot and we asked her to be the guest speaker for our first wellness talk, and she jumped on. Like, it was a yes from the get-go. Susan is a personal finance coach. She's a money educator, and she runs a hub called the Legacy Hub that is dedicated to all things finances. And so she's going to be taking us through a couple of topics, some of them like budgeting, especially for those of us who are either running our own businesses, self-employed or freelancers. Maybe our cash flow is not monthly like employed people, although your business should get to the point where it's paying you. It's a healthy thing to do. But anyway, that's a story for another day. So budgeting. So what does that look like if you get paid in lump sums, etc., that are not monthly? We're also going to be looking at investing. I'm super excited about this topic because for the longest time, I thought investing wasn't for me because people would only talk about high-risk investments. The conversation even then was so full of jargon, my goodness. I remember once a financial trader friend of mine really trying to convince me to put 1 million shillings into something. And my goodness, I was like, are you high? So I can lose all of that money. Can never be me. And it was just so wonderful to learn that we're all different when it comes to our investment personalities. I'm definitely not a high risk investor. I don't like losing sleep. I don't like heart attacks and heartburn. All right. I don't like that shit. And so she's going to be telling us more on that end. If you've always wanted to invest, where do you start? Another topic which is super fantastic is black tax, because that is a thing. And that is a thing that can disrupt your financial goals like crazy. And not everybody has the privilege to say, I'm not going to participate in black tax. So Susan's going to help us navigate that, especially if you're in that category. And we're also going to be going through psychology of money, just understanding your financial trauma and why do we make the financial decisions that we do? Trust me, unlocking my financial trauma, as I said in those podcast episodes before, has really helped me be more organized and responsible and just efficient with my money and my habits. So our wellness talk is going to be virtual, so it doesn't matter where you are in the world, come through. It will also not just be like a lecture where she's just dumping all of this information on you. You're going to get an opportunity to interact with Susan, ask her questions, she'll give you tips. And another thing we talked about with Susan that we're definitely gonna make sure happens at this talk is resources, like actually giving you apps or links to places that can help you. We're not gonna gatekeep that information. So 10th of February, 10 a.m. to 12 noon. And it's virtual, so come through. You want to get your ticket, a link to that is in the show notes, or just go to our website, legallycluelessafrica.com. I can't wait to see you there. Yeah, because it's virtual, so turn on your camera, we'll see each other. Okay, so let me tell you real quick, because I don't want to talk too much. Njoro's story is really awesome and it's also long, so we need to get to it quickly. But I do want to share about the End Femicide protest I went to on Saturday. So in case you do not know, in Kenya, we've had a rise in the cases of femicide this year. Yes, all 4 weeks of this year have been hectic for women in Kenya. There's been a lot of blowback and victim blaming and shaming. Honestly, I was at a point where I was exhausted because the conversations I was seeing, especially online, I was deflated because we had talked about these things so many years ago. There was never a reason to justify the murder of a woman. Not if you've sent her money, not if she's met you at whatever time, not if she's wearing certain things. So seeing those excuses pop up, I was just like, are you trying to say that we did zero work? Like, is that what's happening here? And a huge part of me felt deflated, completely deflated. I didn't want to participate in the conversations because I was just like, this is now getting very boring because we talk and then it just feels like nothing changes, you know? But I knew I was going to go for the protest. Oh, the protest was powerful. There were so many people. And the energy between strangers, complete strangers, was powerful. First of all, I turned up alone, which I was just like, wow, go Adele. We're coming for something we believe in. It was just like a sea of people. And I met so many friends that I hadn't seen in such a long time. So many people who listened to this podcast were there. And I was so proud and happy to meet you all, but proud that you were using your voice for something so powerful. But man, the energy between everyone, complete strangers, protesters. We chanted, we cried, we sang, we danced. We grieved the women who have been murdered, not only this year, but across the years. We felt that pain together, and there was something so spiritually powerful in the air for me. Oof, it was something. There were so many young people there, even older women. And I could just, at one point, I remember just thinking about all the older women who have fought so hard. And because of them, we're able to do this protest. It just felt, so powerful, so powerful. And I was so grateful to them. There were so many men. There were so many young men. Young men. Oh my goodness. Standing by women. Yeah. The tides of change are here. And so I went from being deflated to feeling so hopeful. Hey, I'm so hopeful for my country and this continent, honestly. The tides of change are here. It just feels like people are remembering and reclaiming their power. Anyway, let's jump into a story. And it's a powerful story by Njoro. Yeah, I've said powerful very many times in this episode, but I mean it. A very powerful story by Njoro on an auction, going to rehab, and doing God's work.
100 African stories on Legally Clueless. Stories from Africa.
So my name is Joseph Njoro Kemongi, but people call me Njoro. At home I'm called Ro. That's the term of endearment. I'm from Kiambu, Riara Ridge. That's where my shosho stays, or my grandmother. I'm a Kikuyu, and I love being African. I grew up in a number of places. We moved a lot when I was young. We used to stay at Utali Hotel, the quarters for the staff. My dad was a doctor at Utali Hotel. That was fantastic because we had access to the swimming pool, the chef. So we'd go swimming, have chips. It was fantastic. And then from there, we went to Ngumo. Then we went to Highview and back to Ngumo. And then from Ngumo, we went to Kileleshwa, where I stayed until I became an adult. I have 4 siblings. I'm the third born. I have 2 elder sisters, Angie and Kathy. And then me, and then Lap, or Maria, and then my small brother, Kanyanjwa. When I was younger, funny thing is, I had multiple interests. I used to read a lot. My dad used to force me to read, which I hated because guys outside playing ball, but he insisted during holidays, you must read this number of chapters, and when I come back home, you must give me a synopsis of what you've read. So it gave me, I remember the first book he gave me was Shogun, about this Dutch traveler who went to Japan, one of the first people to enter Japan. It was fascinating. So that was what triggered my reading. At the same time, I was very sporty. So I used to cradle between being sporty and geeky. And I used to play a lot of video games. I love video games. So I used to live in many worlds. So I could interact with the geeks where we're talking comics, we're talking anime. And at the same time, I'll get into the pitch and we're playing football and I'm dominating. And when it comes to academics, I'm doing pretty well. So I don't know how it became. I think it's a combination of my mom's genes and my dad's genes. I am telling you, I was that guy. I'd be like, guys, wait, let's go play ball. Wait, it's just you can't learn anything over lunchtime. Let's go play football. So we go and play ball with these guys, and you end up in quarter one because in school we had quarters, and guys give you that side eye, like, look at this guy. I cradled all those worlds, and it was fantastic. Initially, I wanted to be a pilot, which is an obvious one because you see a plane, it's fascinating, mega structures. Anyway, but when I got to Form 1, I was excelling in biology and chemistry, and my dad is a doctor, so that's the direction I wanted to go until I got to do my community service at Kenyatta Hospital, and I could not handle the smells and sounds, and that was it for me. Medicine was out the window. Unfortunately, there was an incident that happened to our family where my folks lost a legal dispute, and it had a large repercussion on us in terms financially and stability. I was shocked. Being auctioned is not something pleasant for anybody. I saw how vulnerable my mom was at that time. That is a point in time I started thinking about becoming a lawyer because I was wondering why are people coming here to take our stuff, I remember that day, these auctioneers came. My mom was at the gate, and it was back and forth. And I came dragging a metal pipe to fight these guys. Like, who are you and what are you telling my mom? They respected me. Of course, they could finish me in 1 minute because I was just a kid. But they saw the anger, the fire in my eyes, and it made them take a step back. Maybe that's why I remember that's my first time I thought, okay, we don't have a lawyer in this family, someone who can protect our interests, and maybe that's something I should consider. Yeah, I became a lawyer. Oh, for me, I think I felt a deep sense of what was the word? I felt like I had let my mom down somehow. Why am I so helpless? What is this kind of situation? I felt bad for her. I'd never seen my mom so distressed. Luckily my dad is consistent. He's just always bubbly, even in the worst of situations. So kudos to him. He always keeps us afloat, especially emotionally. He knows how to. But for me, I was deeply hurt because all of a sudden you don't have a car. You have to start taking a matatu, walking. But the thing is, I never let it out on my folks. Like I think they knew we were all together in this. I felt like that's the first time we shared a real issue together, and we came out of it together, and it made us stronger. Because at that time I had siblings, even my elder sisters. In fact, they always protected me from these things, and I could always lean on them, and they helped me go through it. Because when you're a kid, you want things. But at that point, I think it was also an advantage because, there's no TV, so read a book, go outside and play. So it was an incident that taught me a lot in terms of loss, in that sense, the not being attached to things, not being greedy. So there was a lot of life lessons from that incident. Till today, I don't have a desire for gold, jewelry, flashy things, big cars. I don't care. I see the way everyone is so hell-bent on flashy things. And honestly, it is one of the 7 deadly sins, greed, gluttony. You see it from our leadership, where people get into positions of power and they only have self-interest. And what do they do with that power? They enrich themselves. They barely enrich anyone else, just themselves and their cronies. It becomes a societal thing where it's even in our media. Our media glorifies people's things. Having a lot of things is seen as an achievement. How? How really? How is it really? Is it an achievement? Yes, to some extent. But what is your definition of success? My definition of success is not things. It's not things. It's people. It's people. That's what we're here on this earth to do. We're not here to accumulate things. We're here to affect people positively. So for me, I don't see the value in just waking up and desiring things. I find that if you can wake up and impact someone positively, you're doing God's work. And I started to learn the value of mdogo mdogo or haba na haba, because I saw us go from having all these things to zero, and then I watched my mom and dad rebuild. When we're kids, you're born and things are there, and then you keep going up or sideways or whichever. So I saw them rebuild. I saw them go from scratch, small, incrementally. It gave me that perspective that you don't have to have everything at a given time. Just work slowly, be diligent, and things will come. So there was a very big life lesson from there, and I think I carried to this day. My first interaction with alcohol was quite early in my life. I think it was in class 8 when I was about 13 or 14. Yeah, we had gone for one of these things in Splash. What is it called? I forget what it was called, but just before we entered, we had these 2 sachets. Sachets. The thing is, I used to have a lot of older friends in the neighborhood, so they were drinking in high school, and so for me, I had the taste, and that feeling of I have no inhibitions. I can say things because generally my inhibitions are lacking. I am not inhibited in speech. I can say outlandish things. So on alcohol, I say things that stick forever. Till today, people have nicknames that came out of me. And that led to some sort of popularity. Like, I was a very fun guy to drink with. And that was when I was in class 8 and going into Form 1, Form 2, I started to influence my friends. Most of my friends in high school had their first drink, courtesy of yours, truly. It was a popularity thing. Like, I knew the places, how to get the booze, what the plan was. I was the guy. I would do it regularly. No, not so much in high school, but on holidays, you do it when you go out, because I started going out early. I remember my first time to go to Kani. I went with my eldest sis. My first encounter with the alcohol, it was all positive. It was all good. There was no craving or wanting or overdoing it. It was fun. After clearing Form 4, I got into Strath Uni. I was doing DBIT. During that year in Strath, it was kind of like doing something before we get into campus for undergraduate. Of course, I was that guy. I honestly tell you, I'm saying this in an honest way, that was very popular in high school and post-high school. So all the time guys are hitting you up. Hey, Njoro, what's the plan? What's the plan? Hey, what's the plan? And it was those situations where I didn't even need to even carry my wallet, because guys know you light up the place. Even there's a moniker guys used to use, like, if you want to have fun, just holla at Njoro. There was a lot of access to it, because I can't say for sure when it became a problem. What I can say is that guys would, growing up now in my early 20s, going to mid 20s, you know, there are times like you're overdoing it, so you'll black out in the club. It's embarrassing, because I had a way also with a lot of, like, I was popular with girls. So again, a girl would ask you, someone you really like, because me, I love for real. So I never indulge in, what do you call it? Womanization. But I'll cut you many chicks, but I won't abuse that power of being able to make a girl get attracted to you. But you find that you're breaking up relationships because of alcohol. Relationships are breaking down, and significantly was my relationship with my mom. She didn't like that I used to drink and go out so much. So when you wake up, you're hungover, she looks at you and you feel some guilt, so you get out of the house and you find yourself drinking some more. Over the years, it became, I can't say I became an alcoholic, but I used to drink a lot. I used to like go overboard a lot. And then now, through campus, same thing. Campus, we used to do it a lot. And when I got into the workforce, now this is where now rubber meets the road. My mom was adamant. She's like, you need to leave my house. You're working now, get out. So I left. And when I left the place where I was working, I felt undervalued. I had issues with my girlfriend, and it was bad. It's something that happened between us that was horrific. I found myself going deeper and deeper because I quit my job without even notice. So I was just at home doing freelancing, but any little cash I get, priority is what? Alcohol. So I was in this hole, and I was not really performing at my best. I was, you know, when you're drinking a lot, you become unreliable. You sell a lot of lies. You find ways to make money just for sustaining. I remember very specifically in end of 2018, my mom had organized for me a cohort, a group of people, a chama of women who wanted to invest. Because they're retiring from their work, they wanted to invest. So my mom is like, okay, this guy is a good lawyer, he can help you. So I had that meeting, and then it was secured. They were like, okay, tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., let's meet at this point. We have our meeting, our first meeting, all of us. They put a deposit in my account. And this is more money than I'd ever seen. That night, I got home, and I was like, okay, Njoro, tonight, no drinks. Tomorrow morning, you have a meeting, the meeting of your life. And my pal calls me, my neighbor is like, wait, Njoro, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm chilling tonight. Don't sumbua me. Don't disturb me. And then he's like, wait, look, just check your WhatsApp. Look at your WhatsApp. I open my WhatsApp. I'm seeing a bottle of whiskey and some two nice girls over there. I'm like, wait, see, we can celebrate this new job a little bit. I go to his place. We start sipping. All the next thing I know, it's 3 a.m. I'm calling a Duthi guy, a guy on a bike. Wait, get me another bottle. So that night we drank until like 6. I'm like, okay, here let me give it a good snooze until 7:30. I wake up, cold shower, coffee. I go for this meeting. I put my phone in the charger. I didn't switch it on. Phone goes off, no alarm. And mind you, I'd been drinking previously, so there was still fatigue in me. I woke up at 6 p.m. 6 p.m. And it's not like I woke up. I was woken up by my sister who stormed in. She walked into this house. I woke up because of the mannerism in which she opened that gate. I had it. It's a bed sitter. It's just a young... She's in there. And my sister can give you this look. She gave me a look. Okay, this look she gave me, I saw myself through her eyes. I saw the anger and the sadness. And she spoke so much without saying anything. I cried. I bawled my eyes out. I told her, Jeremy, I've stopped drinking. This is the last time. That was September 16th or 15th, 2018. I told her, this is the last time. She sat down with me. I remember telling her about why I drink. I don't know. I cried. I blamed the world. Victim. It's not me. It's the world. It's not me. It's the world. And at that point in time, she called my mom. No, I called my mom. I told my mom, I'm done drinking. Find me a good place where I can go and analyze my life and see why is it that I drink this much and see how I can resolve it. So my dad found a place. He told me, I'm going to come to pick you tomorrow. I told him, come for me today. I'm not staying here by myself. Yeah, I needed to get out of that environment. So what I did is I told him, let's go to my grandfather's place, both of them. I went and collected all their books, all the books that they've read in their bookshelves, or the ones that I could find. So I'm like, I've never met my grandfathers, neither of them. They both died before I was born. So I collected the books. I'm like, take me wherever you're going. So I had a bunch of books. I'm like, wherever it is I'm going, at least I know I'm going to read. Now, I don't know who talked to my dad and suggested some place in, what is it, past Wote, over there near somewhere in Ukambani. It was a dungeon. It was the worst place I've ever been. When we arrived like this, I saw the place. I had that, you know that feeling of a hot potato in your throat, like you want to cry. I was so scared, so offended. I'm like, this is the place you're bringing me. I could see it in his eyes also. He's like, okay, I didn't know this how it looks. But I was so determined. I was fully determined. I said, I'm not doing it anymore. And I can't stay in that environment, and I need to figure out what's going on with me. So yeah, I check in. It was called Good Hope. It's a rehab in Ukambani, but it's for hardcore. It's hard. The people in there are hardcore guys. I'm like, what is this? So I get in, and then I'm placed in. Because it's nighttime by now. I'm placed next to some guy who talks to himself, and he says crazy things. So the first night I'm in that bed, I'm hearing a guy say, "Ama tumuwe." I'm like, what the? And at I'm on a bunk bed, and I can see him on the other bunk bed at the top. I'm like, what is this? So the guy below me is like, no. Uyo jiongelesha tu. Wachana na huyo mse. Anyway, so in that rehab, I was there for a month. It was the craziest month of my life because there was so much bad stuff happening in there that I could see, but I couldn't do anything about. Until a point when they started calling it out, challenging these directors. Like, for instance, one of these kids, they used to beat people. I remember day one, when I saw someone being beaten, I stood up and I said, me, no one is going to touch me. Touch me, I will sue you for everything you have. I promise, I will finish you. You don't know me. And that started something in that rehab. Guys started feeling like they have rights because these are people who are discarded. You know, there's rehab for when you're at the end, your family is done with you, but there's when your family is trying to help you. So most of them were at that end. So they felt no hope. They couldn't talk to themselves. They were demoralized, literally. So I started speaking up for these guys. Hey, why can't you put salt in this food? Why can't you? I was causing a lot of trouble. I had to be whisked out of that place. Like, I had to scheme with one of the counselors in that place for my dad to come pick me up on a Sunday when we usually go to a church that is next. Like, I had to be intercepted because I was calling out the business model. Anyway, from there I was transferred to Kikuyu. I was snuck out and transferred to Kikuyu at a place called Levuka. Yeah, Levuka. It's run and operated by Jamii Bora Trust. Now there, I started now. I could relax because this place was always on guard. Some guy wanted to fight me all the time. Like, why are you ringing for? Anyway, so here I had a good opportunity to examine who I was. Why do I drink so much? And I had some good counselors in there. But to sum it up, Adele, how I got over drinking is simple. And I say this, the disclaimer is that this worked for me. And it works for me till today. I tell myself, I am made in God's image. I believe it to be true. I know it to be true. No one can tell me otherwise. And you know how I got to this conclusion? Is this mantra that you're made to say in rehab of, I am powerless, I have to submit to a higher being, either God or something or a cause or something. This is day one. I put up my hand and I'm like, that's not true. This guy is not this. Who's this guy? What are you? How can you come and challenge our curriculum? I'm like, no. Why are you telling me I'm powerless? Why are you telling me I'm powerless? I'm not powerless. I am powerful. I am made in the image of God. Yes, I'm weak, but I am powerful. We have weaknesses, all of us. So don't tell me I'm powerless. And I spent the 2 months challenging those counselors. They didn't like me, but honestly, and I'm saying this again, this works for me. The idea of approaching it, saying that, yes, I submit to a higher power, it works for many people. It does. But honestly, it doesn't work for majority of people because the rate of relapse from a rehab is ridiculous. If you took your child to a school and you're told 86% of the children in this school fail, you'd be like, excuse me, you'd pull your kid out of that school immediately. But that's how our rehabs are run. And they're run like businesses, unfortunately. And what is the best business model? Repeat customers. So I started challenging these guys like, wait, do you want people to pona or you just want them to come back? Because guys are telling them, this is my 6th time here. This is my 4th time. I'm like, wait, what? Me, I'm like, I'm never coming back here. I'm not coming back here. 3 months of my life. What a sacrifice. And anyone who has done time, I felt like I was doing time. I felt like it was penance for all the people I'd had through my drinking and all that. So for me, I was so sure, you're not going to tell me I'm powerless. I am powerful. I'm made in the image of God. So this thing, which is a substance, it's a substance. It's not transient. It can't talk to you. It's not transient. It's not made in the image of God. This is a man-made thing. It cannot beat me. And I was so sure, I was cocksure that I'm not going back to drinking. Why? Because I've said it to myself and I want to prove it to myself. So I want to prove it to myself every morning. And interestingly, when I left rehab, first place I left on a Thursday. Friday night, I was at Deja Vu in the club. In the club, I'm telling you. Do you know why? To say no. To say no. I went into the pit where it's indulged, where it's the main course. To say no to everyone and anything who would offer me alcohol. To show myself that I can. So I said to myself, and then this happens to a lot of people who quit alcohol and go through the rehab, they feel shame, a lot of shame. And that shame can lead to relapse a lot. It does. I think it's the number one cause of relapse. So you'll find guys, they leave rehab and say, no, me, I was in China, I was going to see my aunt in UK. Lies upon lies. And lies always, the truth always comes out. So as this truth starts coming out, to become insecure. In that insecurity, you start drinking again. So I said, I'm going to own my narrative. So when I checked and I came out of rehab, guys would ask me, Njoro bana, you guys been lost. I'm like, you guys in rehab bana. So a guy is taken aback, like, hey, how can you say that with such gusto, like it's a good thing? I'm like, yeah, it is a good thing. I was honest with myself. And that's where it starts. Quitting alcohol is being honest with yourself. So I was honest with myself. And if you're honest with yourself, you can be honest with the world. So I was very honest with myself. I'm like, hey, you guys in rehab bana. You get me, these pints will maliza me. Yeah, I'm not going to be malized by pints. I have too much to do in this world. And you could see guys are like, okay, that's unorthodox. And what happens is many people relate. Because a friend of mine just recently was telling me about, she told me a term, sober curious. Sober curious. Everyone who drinks is sober curious. Like, I wonder how it would be if I was not drinking. That's something that common. Like, when you wake up with a hangover, you have to be sober curious at that exact moment. Like, why am I drinking? Why am I always drinking? So, for me, I'm like, if I can be honest to people, it can help them to be honest with themselves. And I can say gladly, I've helped a number of people face themselves. Because alcohol people look outwards. I mean, alcoholics love to look outwards. They love to blame my mother, my father, my sister, my husband, my wife, my job, whoever. But not looking within and seeing what's wrong and dealing with that. For me, I knew what it was. I knew I'd become a selfish human being. Any little money I get is for me. It's for my drinks. My time, especially my time. My mom would ask me, can you take me somewhere on a Saturday? I'm like, hey, Saturday is peak drinking time. What do you mean? Saturday afternoon. And there's Premier League, I had peak drinking time. You must be crazy. No, I'm not going for whatever that thing is. And then she'd go with my other siblings, you know? And you miss out on that. So you find that there are things you're missing out on that alcohol has replaced. Like, instead of going for football, because I used to love playing football all the time, let's go catch a pint. Yeah, and even just to take it back a little bit, after high school, because in high school I was very proficient in sports. I was the captain of the football team, vice captain of the rugby team, vice captain of the basketball team. I was doing cross country, and I had ambitions to get into professional sports. But when that didn't pan out, I felt like now I don't want to play all the time. So playing time was switched to drinking time. So you even start losing interest in the things that you love. So going back, when I went into rehab, I started to fall in love with the things I used to love: reading, playing sports, just going on a bike ride, jogging in the morning, such things. So I think the journey for me to quitting alcohol was being honest with myself, facing the demons that I had created. Because you create these things along the way with your drinking. You destroy a relationship. Every time you have to face it, you'd rather have a drink. Then you move to another relationship, you destroy it. I had destroyed my relationship with my mom. And when I came out of rehab, my mom and I became so close. It was fantastic. I'm like, this is what I was missing out on. My mom would be like, let's go for a drive. Let's go for lunch. As in, you have these conversations with the mom, and they're wholesome, and you feel a warmth. There's this warmth that comes from family that nothing else can give you. And I'd isolated myself from my family. And it's just drinking buddies and all that. So it was a journey of getting back to who I was. Lucky enough, my good friend Dr. Boyd saw my journey, and he invited me to launch Next Gen with him, which is, I like to call Next Gen my second born. So Next Gen Multisport Academy is an academy with a long-term athlete development curriculum, which I co-founded with Dr. Edwin Kiptolo Boyd. So what we do at Next Gen is we train kids in basketball, football, athletics, swimming, tennis, and rugby. We do that from age 4, starting from age 4. Why do we do it from age 4? To give kids a chance to explore their talents, and then from there moving to specializing and maybe making a career out of sports, or not just towards professionalism, or using it as a conduit to achieving other things. I'll give you an example. 2 of our kids just recently got a 90% scholarship in high school based on their basketball acumen through training at Next Gen. So yeah, it's a scientific-based multi-sport academy. We're doing, I call it God's work. It's God's work. Developing kids, that's not your work. Dr. Boyd he has a master's in sports science and sports health, and a PhD in sports science. He was a professional swimmer. He actually represented Kenya in All Africa Games and got us a gold. Our stories are very similar in the sense that we were very good at sports high school level, but there's no clear pathway into professionalism where you can make a career out of it. So there's a lot of disillusionment. It happens to a lot of kids. In fact, you see a lot of people who are on drugs, alcoholics, they're vagabonds, they're thugs out there. These are people who are fantastically good. They're fantastically talented. But when that talent leads to nowhere, they become disillusioned. I remember the word disillusioned I learned from this book in Kiswahili in high school. What is it called? No, the English book. Once, this guy, what is his name? Peter. He was disillusioned so much that he used to wear his shoes tight so that he has some form of relief when he gets home. There's a lot of disillusioned sports people because you feel like there's nowhere to go, and you end up doing a job you despise. You end up in a career that you're not really passionate about. So we thought to ourselves, how do we create pathways to utilizing sports better in Kenya? Because one thing that I testify about is that Kenyans are the best in sports in the world, and I'll challenge anyone. We can have a debate with anyone on that topic. I know Kenyans are the best in sports in the world. I'll give you an example. Kenyan rugby players will go to Dubai Sevens and Seven Circuit when they are bankers, they are doctors, they are whatever, and they're playing against people who wake up eating, sleeping rugby. Yet you have to wake up, you go to work, sit in a booth for 6 hours, go train maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 hours a week, and compete. It's madness. Just the other day, Kiptum broke Eliud Kipchoge's record, and we had no idea who he was. As in, it's astounding. The amount of talent in Kenya is God-given. There's no country that has more talent than Kenya. I say that as a fact. But anyway, we know this for a fact. So we thought to ourselves, how do we get the best out of people? And one of the ways is to identify talent early. So we use a scientific method in identifying talent in terms of when you collect data and you use data to analyze the progression of an athlete, you can better tune them towards professionalism. So that's what we do. We collect data on our kids. What that helps us to do is analyze which sport are they good at. Look at how they're performing in football. Look at how they're performing in basketball, in rugby, in swimming. And then we have a conversation with the parents and the coaches. And then they make a decision for themselves as to what they want to specialize in. So you don't find that parents are imposing themselves on their children like, me, I was a footballer, you'll become a footballer. Let the kid be a sentient being as they are. They're an individual on their own. So that's how we created that platform for that specific purpose, to create pathways through sports, pathways to success through sports. It's the most difficult job I've had in my life, and I'm an advocate. I've done very complicated cases. I've had briefs that keep me up all night, but when it comes to the academy, the challenge is the responsibility you have, because it's a kids, it's challenging in the fact that we're doing something novel. No one is really doing it in Kenya. Finding that balance, getting people through the door is also difficult, because sports is still seen as an extracurricular, as not a necessity. And funny enough, we launched in the depth of COVID. I'm telling you, our kids used to play football with masks, so we were all guessing what to do. But we launched during COVID, and I can call it a success in terms of maybe it doesn't make us all that much money, but it provides employment for our coaches. And these are young coaches who are all sports scientists. So they bring that aspect, and we are desperate to bring that professionalism to sports, because in Kenya, that's what's holding us back. It's the professionalism. There's a lack of professionalism in sports. So ours is to try and create those systems, and that's where the difficulty is in creating those systems, in fighting the resistance to change. People want to do the same things, gung-ho, not doing things with contracts, just word of mouth. It's just their unprofessionalism. So we face that a lot. But I think the biggest challenge also has been to interact between us as directors of the company. Sometimes, you have other commitments, just like any other job. So it's not easy running a thing like that. But once the systems were created, now you find it's flowing, and it's fantastic. Where we are now, in fact, we are 3 years old now. We celebrated our 3rd year anniversary last year in September. Yeah, so our toddler is walking now. We started off. We were chasing profit. We were like, we have a good idea. If it catches on, we'll make money. But what happened is, when we started off, we got a Coach John. He lives in Kibra. He wanted to bring his son. And we're like, we're not going to charge him. They were going to charge. Like, just bring him. Then before you know it, it's like, there are these 2 other boys who can play. This girl can play. So 1 became 3. 3 became 6. 6 became 10. 10 is now 35, if I'm not wrong. So we have a scholarship program with 35 kids from Kibera. These kids they're thriving in it. And as the scholarship program started growing and developing, we got a sense of, okay, this thing has stopped being about us. And we started to look out to think of, how do we grow this scholarship program and make it half and half. So we have the paying clients, and then we have half, which is a scholarship program, because these kids, their interaction, they're learning from each other. It creates a very, very good blend. So we incorporated a foundation, Next Gen Foundation, which is responsible with the objects of the foundation is to cater to their needs. So we feed them when they're coming for training. We give them transport. We buy them kit, pay for tournament fees, what have you. Sometimes we pay for part of their school fees if need be. Something profound happened to us. In fact, I need to mention the 3rd director. We're 3 of us. So he's called Kevin Kabu Njoro, a very brilliant financial guy. We decided we're going to forgo profit and dividends. It's no longer about profit anymore. Now, that company now belongs, we're in the process. It's a legal process, but we came to the realization that, guys, let's leave. We're not going to do profit. If we make profit, that's for the program. So that company now, we're going to transfer it to the foundation and run everything through the foundation. So how you guys can help, obviously, is putting out the message out there. We're looking for donors who can contribute to the foundation. If there are grants that are available that we can apply for that you think we would qualify based on the fact that we're doing sports and we're doing that social mobility for these kids, that is what would help us. And right now, I think we're at the stage where we're setting up the board of the foundation, and we've gotten some really powerful people to come and help us. And we hope that we can really grow this foundation and help as many kids out of there. And you ask me, what is the moment I feel at one? There've been moments. There've been very many moments. Okay. The first moment, can I give you 3 moments? The first moment is when one of our kids, the first days, when we were just, when you've just started a new venture, you don't know what you're doing, but you're doing it. So this kid, I remember she had come with her mom, small girl, 3 years old, 3.5. So she's being told, okay, just go and play. No, she's hiding behind the mom's skirt and crying. Nini. Then I came to her with a rugby ball and I threw it to her. Then she winced and tried to protect herself from the ball. Then I'm like, no, it's okay. Just open your arms like this, make a basket, then just close the basket when the ball enters the basket. So she was there, she's like, I threw the ball, she grabbed it. Then I saw her make a realization of, I did it. After that, she threw it back to me. I'm like, yeah, like that. So we started throwing back and forth until today, from day one, she's still there. And she has developed. This is 3 years ago. I've seen her grow and develop, and now she's holding her own on the pitch from being so timid. Another moment is one of our boys. Obviously, I'm not saying names because of, but one of our boys, when he came, he was timid. He didn't want, he would cry, football is hard, I don't do football, I want to go home. Now, a year later, he was, because we have awards, we have a prize giving day. He was the athlete of the year. That boy eats, sleeps, drinks, next gen. This cohort, the ones we started with, they're now 9 years old. They came when they're around 6. This cohort have given us a problem of we don't know where to specialize them, because take them for football, competent, fantastic. Basketball, same thing. Rugby, even they don't know, because we gave them this platform. Like, we built this platform that has developed them so much. In fact, now coaches are wondering, I want these ones? I want them to be in my team. But we've set a policy for subspecialization. So to actually see that development happen in the way we envisioned, it's profound for us. And finally, when the kids I told you, scholarship, because last year we got a kid a basketball scholarship. Do you know the impact on that kid and the family's life? Like, they don't have to think about school fees. It's fantastic. So even in fact, these 2 kids, we just secured the scholarship 2 days ago. And now we're raising funds so that we can pay the 10%, because they got a 90% scholarship in St. Augustine School in Kitui to do the whole of high school, based on basketball scholarships. When we closed that deal, I didn't know how to act myself. I don't know. Just goosebumps, because, like I said, it's not about me. It's not about Dr. Boy. It's not about Kev. It's not about our coaches. It's about those kids, and that's God's work. So I'm so encouraged. Sometimes you want to quit because you want to do something. It's not lucrative for us, but there's money in it, but it's not lucrative. You want to get a bigger house for your growing family. But at the same time, we've forgone benefiting directly so that we can build something that will outlast us, and these kids will benefit for a long, long time. I was telling my fiance, the word of the year is diligence, because I found myself in a very good opportunity and I just need to be diligent. But what keeps me going is, I've said it a number of times on this show, I'm made in God's image and I am powerful.
Catch more African stories in the next episode of Legally Clueless.
I really loved having Njoro on the show. I met him so many years ago. First and foremost, his sister, one of his sisters, was classmates with my sister. So we were in the same primary school, and her and my sister were like BFFs. And so Njoro and I, years later, were in the same circle of friends, and we used to party a lot. I had no idea that I had been in school with his sister until one day. I can't remember what the event was, and she was there as well, and I was like, hiya. Such a small world. But it's so crazy how you can hang out. We never used to hang out like every day. Like we weren't BFFs, but you just never know the battles people are fighting. I feel that as well. It's the reason I have a particular mantra, which is if you have the capacity to be kind to someone, a stranger or someone you know, please do it, because you don't know the battles people are facing. And how I came to that being my mantra is, man, there have been some heavy days for me where I'm battling a lot. I remember when I was probably, not early stages of the divorce. My divorce, it was a few months in, and I was house hunting in Nairobi. And I just felt like, my goodness, there was just so much noise around me. I still had to shop for work, shop for therapy, shop for meetings with my lawyer, and then look for a house. And at that time, I was traveling a lot for work. So God bless my best friend. She would sometimes go and view those houses for me. But anyway, this one morning, I had a particularly rough night. I have not slept. I have a scheduled house visit with this agent. I get to where our meeting point is, and I just sit in the car crying. And I have these like huge shades that I carry on my bad days because you cannot see my eyes. You can't tell if they're red. He comes a little late. I'm so exhausted. I'm not even like irritated by his tardiness. But when he arrives, he's like, I'm sorry I'm late. I'm not feeling well. So he had stopped to like go to the pharmacy, etc. And then he decided to buy himself juice. And then he bought me juice as well. This was like my first time meeting this guy. I was so emotional. Like that one act of kindness, I was like in tears. I was in tears. First of all, it was my worst juice. Like I really dislike mango juice, but I drank that juice to the end because I was like, the kindness is needed today. So you never know the battles people are facing. So be kind. I loved when Njoro talks about lack of attachment to material things. I really, really am working my way to fully being there. I'm like maybe 60% in. Especially when I think about like success, I think about that a lot. And my definition of success, I believe we should all define success for ourselves. But mine is being in a state where I am in charge of my time. A couple of weeks ago, I was talking with my best friend and I was like, oh my God, I am in charge of my time. I can wake up and decide I'm going to drum. I'm just going to do my drums this morning and I'll start work in the afternoon or whatever. Or I'm just going to garden. Or today is my day off. Or today I'm really putting in that work. Because they're obviously capitalism. There are days that you have to chase those deadlines, etc. But that is my definition of success. And I think it's important for you to define it for yourself. Otherwise, you'll chase society's predefined definition of success, which more often than not is always materialistic because businesses need to push product. At this point in my life, I acknowledge that yes, certain material things are necessary, but not because they are part of my definition of success. They are just a means to an end or just access to choices. So like my car is a means to an end. It moves me from point A to point B. My car is like 12 years old. Money is access to choices. It just affords me more choices, but when you start defining success as materialistic, I find that to be extremely dangerous because these material things come and go. And so in the moments that they go, you could find yourself completely wrecked, which I think Njoro also talked about. I love his story so much. First and foremost, I had heard the term sober curious before, and it's just such an interesting term. But I have significantly reduced my alcohol intake. Again, I've talked about this on the podcast before, and I just feel like when you understand alcohol is a poison in itself, you start to understand what it does to your body. As much as we talk about taking care of our mental and our spirit, we've got to do the same for our physical body. And I just can't bring myself to drink as much anymore, because I just think about what it's doing to my body. And yeah, so it's always good to hear people work their way out of alcohol and into a healthier version of themselves. I mean, look at what he's doing with Next Gen, the multi-sports academy. And so I would love us to support him and the kids. So in the show notes, I've put a link to their website, their social media platforms. But if you want to walk the talk and support their foundation so they can have more kids come to Next Gen without worrying about payment or food or gear or, then if you're in Kenya, the Paybill number is 222-111. The account number is 2086015, but that's also in the show notes. So you can make any contribution to their foundation, any amount. You can forgo lunch and put 100 shillings to the foundation. Yeah, so that we can really start molding the next frontier of Kenya's sports people. And being born in a low economic background shouldn't limit children from being all they can be. So yeah, check out the show notes for all of those deets. If you also in the show notes want to share your story, we have our correspondence. So we're recording stories all year round. So make sure you fill out our stories on the form in the show notes and we will get back to you. You can also catch us on Trace FM if you're in Kenya every Monday and Wednesday at 1 p.m. and 11 p.m. Every Friday at 1 p.m. Just go to traceradio.co.ke. And once again, I'm going to remind you that you and I have a very special date. So maybe like me, you want to understand the emotions or the trauma that makes you spend your money the way you do, or you're navigating black tax and it's hectic, or you want to learn how to budget, but you can't do it the way employed people do because you're a freelancer or you're self-employed, or you just want to start investing and you're like, where do I begin? I think the first step is attending our Legally Clueless Wellness Talk that's happening on the 10th of February from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. It's a webinar, so wherever you are in the world, you can attend. I'm excited about our guest speaker because her YouTube videos last year helped me change my financial habits for healthier. It's Susan Wanjiku. She is the founder of the Legacy Hub. She's a personal finance coach. She's a money educator, and she's going to be walking us through those themes. So 10th February, 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Tickets are 1,000 bob. Grab them right now on Hustle Sasa. Let's take that first step to changing our financial habits to better, to making our money work for us this year.